Have you ever caught yourself telling a lie that didn't really matter? Maybe a friend asked if you were tired, and you quickly said, "No, I'm fine," even though you could barely keep your eyes open. Or someone asked what you were doing, and instead of telling the truth, you made up something slightly different, not to protect yourself, not to hide anything serious, but just because it slipped out. Why do we do this? Why do humans tell lies that don't seem necessary? It's easy to understand lying when the stakes are high, avoiding punishment, protecting someone's feelings, or hiding something dangerous. But what about those small lies, the ones that seem harmless? This is where it gets interesting. Our minds are wired in ways we don't always notice. Sometimes lying feels easier than honesty, even when the truth would do no harm. It raises a bigger question. Are we lying to protect others, or are we lying to protect ourselves? In this episode, we'll explore why people lie even when they don't need to, what psychology and philosophy reveal about this habit, and what it means for the way we live our daily lives. Lying, in its simplest form, is the act of saying something that does not match reality. Psychology often defines it as the deliberate attempt to mislead another person, whether by twisting facts, leaving things out, or making up a story completely. But in everyday life, lying does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it's as small as saying, "I'll be there in 5 minutes," when you know it will take 10. Other times it's pretending you liked a movie when you actually didn't, just to avoid an awkward moment. When we think of lies, we usually imagine them tied to survival criminals hiding evidence, children avoiding punishment, or politicians covering up mistakes. Yet lying is not just about survival. It is woven into our daily interactions, often in ways we hardly notice. It slips into conversations, workplaces, friendships, and even into the way we talk to ourselves. Research highlights just how common it is. Studies show that the average person lies several times a day, and many of those lies are small, unnecessary ones. This means lying is not an exception, but almost a rule of human behavior, raising the question, why is dishonesty so natural to us? When we dig deeper, it becomes clear that lying isn't random. It often comes from specific reasons that shape how we respond in different situations. Let's look at 5 main causes that explain why people lie, even when there's no strong reason to. 1. Fear of consequences. This is the most obvious one. From childhood, we learn that telling the truth can sometimes bring punishment or embarrassment. A child who breaks a glass might quickly say, "It wasn't me," even if the evidence is clear. The fear of facing even small consequences, being scolded, laughed at, or judged, can push us into lying. What's interesting is that this fear often lingers into adulthood, so we continue lying in situations where the consequences are tiny or even non-existent. 2. Protecting self-image. Humans care deeply about how they are seen by others. Lies often become a shield for the ego. For example, someone might exaggerate their achievements in a casual conversation, not because it matters, but because they want to appear impressive. These lies are less about hiding the truth and more about creating a version of ourselves that feels safer or more appealing to others. 3. Avoiding discomfort. Sometimes lying is a quick way to dodge awkwardness. Think of the classic "I'm busy" excuse when we really just don't feel like going out. The truth might make us seem rude, so we choose a small lie to escape discomfort. In this sense, lying acts like a shortcut. It saves us from difficult conversations, even though honesty might have been better in the long run. 4th, habitual lying. For some people, lying becomes almost automatic. It starts small but slowly develops into a reflex. Instead of stopping to think about the truth, the person slips into falsehood without realizing it. This kind of lying can be dangerous because it erodes trust quickly. Once lying becomes a habit, it's no longer about specific situations. It becomes part of how the person interacts with the world. 5. Lying as a social lubricant, the white lie. Not all lies are told to deceive in a harmful way. Sometimes people lie to keep interactions smooth. Complimenting a friend's haircut when you don't like it, or saying "that was delicious" when the food wasn't, are examples of white lies. These lies can feel harmless, and in some cases they even maintain harmony. but over time, they still shape how genuine or shallow our connections really are. Together, these causes show that lying is not always about survival or malice. More often, it's tied to fear, ego, comfort, habit, or social bonding. Each of these roots reveals how complex human honesty really is. Stories make the roots of lying easier to understand because they show how these behaviors play out in real life. Take the case of a child lying about homework. A teacher asks, "Did you finish your assignment?" And the child quickly replies, "Yes, I did," even though the pages are still blank. The child knows the truth will bring judgment, maybe a scolding or a bad grade. The lie is not carefully planned. It bursts out in fear of disappointment. This simple moment shows how fear of consequences shapes our instinct to lie, even when the outcome is small. Now picture a man at a social gathering. The conversation drifts to travel, and he casually says he has been to countries he's never visited. Why? Because he wants to sound more interesting, more worldly. This is not about danger or punishment. It's about ego. The lie paints a version of himself that feels more impressive, even though it's not true. In this way, lies become tools for boosting self-image. Consider also the common phrase, "I'm fine." A friend may say this with a smile, even when they are clearly hurting inside. The truth feels heavy to share, so the lie becomes a shield. This form of lying isn't about hiding from others, but about protecting emotions. It avoids discomfort for both sides, though it also hides the reality of human struggles. Even philosophers reflected on lying. Plato spoke of what he called noble lies, stories told by leaders to preserve social order. In his view, certain untruths might be necessary to keep society stable. While this idea is controversial, it shows that lying has always been part of human thought, debated not just in daily life but in philosophy as well. These examples remind us that lying is rarely simple. Whether it's a child, a man at a party, a hurting friend, or even ancient thinkers, the reasons behind lies are deeply human. Psychologists and philosophers have long tried to explain why lying is such a common human act. Sigmund Freud believed lies often act as defense mechanisms. In his view, people lie to protect themselves from truths that feel too painful to face. For example, someone might downplay their failures, not because they want to trick others, but because admitting the full truth would hurt their own sense of self. Alfred Adler, whose quote opened this episode, suggested something similar, that truth feels dangerous. When honesty threatens our self-image, safety, or comfort, lying becomes a shield. This view explains why even harmless truths sometimes get replaced with small lies. On the other side, the philosopher Immanuel Kant believed lying was always wrong, no matter the reason. To Kant, every lie damages trust and respect for others. Even so-called white lies, he argued, weaken the moral foundation of relationships and society. For him, morality demanded truth at all times, regardless of the cost. Modern psychology takes a softer view. Many researchers point out that people often lie to maintain social harmony. White lies, though imperfect, sometimes protect feelings or smooth over interactions. For example, saying, "Dinner was great," even if it wasn't, prevents unnecessary conflict. In this sense, lying is seen as a tool for social connection, not just deception. These perspectives remind us that lying sits in a gray area between self-protection, morality, and social survival. Lies may offer comfort in the short term, but they often carry heavy costs over time. In the moment, a lie can feel like the easiest way out, a quick escape from judgment, awkwardness, or responsibility. But that short-term benefit rarely lasts. One of the biggest dangers of lying is the erosion of trust. Relationships, whether with friends, family, or partners, depend on honesty as their foundation. Even small lies can create cracks in that foundation. When repeated, those cracks grow into gaps that are hard to repair. Once someone begins to doubt your words, every future statement is questioned, no matter how honest it may be. Lies also tend to build on themselves. A simple falsehood often requires another to cover it, and then another. Soon a person is managing an entire story instead of a single sentence. Psychologists point out that this creates a mental burden, known as cognitive load. The brain struggles to track what was said, what was hidden, and what might be exposed. Think about the last small lie you told. Did it truly protect you, or did it make things more complicated later? The cost of lying often becomes clear only after the truth eventually surfaces. If lying is so common, what can we actually do about it? The first step is awareness. Pay attention to the moment you feel the urge to lie, even in small situations. That pause, that flicker of hesitation before you speak, is often a sign that your mind is choosing between truth and falsehood. Once you notice the impulse, move to reflection. Ask yourself, why do I feel the need to lie right now? Is it fear of judgment, a desire to impress, or simply to avoid discomfort? Naming the reason behind the lie takes away much of its hidden power. The next step is practice. Start being honest in small, low-risk situations. Instead of saying, "I'm fine," try admitting, "I've had a tough day." These small moments build confidence in speaking the truth without fear. Finally, remember that honesty doesn't have to be cruel. Many avoid the truth because they fear it will hurt others, but truth and kindness can live together. Saying something gently is still more real than hiding behind a lie. The goal is not perfection, but progress, a slow move toward honesty that makes life simpler, lighter, and more genuine. If lies protect us from the truth, what truth are you running from? Take a moment to reflect on the last time you chose dishonesty, even in something small. Was it fear, pride, or habit guiding you? Remember, awareness is the first step toward change. If this made you think, subscribe to Mindcrafted, where we explore the mind and craft a better life together.